my exploration of experiments with vibrations was one that gave me a good sense of the relationship between energy, information, rules, and geometry. But I didn't know, I couldn't explain it that way back then. I was probably 7 or 8. But I'll tell the story here is that I had a record player, Mickey Mouse record player, and we had records. And we would listen to songs and stuff, stories. Um, and it was fun. But the record player had a little lever that you could adjust the speed of the record because there were different size records. The record player had 3 different speeds and a neutral. So it had 33 RPMs, 45 RPMs, and 78 RPMs. I didn't have any records that were 78 RPMs, but I had 33 and 45, and also neutral. And sometimes I would listen to like a 45 record on 33, and sometimes I would listen to a 33 record on 45, and I could hear the pitch proportionally to that. I could see a representation of 33 divided by 45 or 45 divided by 33, not mathematically, but in the scale of this, of like how off the pitch was. And I thought that was cool. But then, I was tinkering around with this idea with different speeds and vibrations and stuff. And I would put the record in neutral, the record player in neutral. And I would wiggle my fingers, like walk my fingers on the record to try to spin it at the exact speed that matched the pitch that was the right pitch, acoustically for hearing it. And I did that for a while. I thought that was fun. I have to do it in reverse, listen to the record backwards this way, try different things and see if the pitch was also inverted in reverse, which it was, and like the messing around. And so, but what I noticed was that if I walked my fingers on the record at the place where the needle met the record, that the speed I had to wiggle my fingers changed as I went from the outer rim of the record to the inner rim of the record, because the record on the outside is one like record perimeter length, and the perimeter on the inner part of the record is smaller. And so I was like imagining this, modeling this in my way, and I realized that from the perspective of the needle, the speed of the record changes from the outer rim to the inner part of the grooves, because it's traveling. Let's just throw out some numbers. I don't know how big records are, but I'll just do it in feet. Let's call it, let's do 12 inches. It's 12 inches around on the on the circumference of this thing on the outer, and let's just say 3 inches in the middle. So if it's going one time around a second, it's going from like 12 inches a second to 3 inches a second from the perspective of those numbers are not right, but anyway, and there's different kinds of records. So anyway, so I was wondering if the speed of the needle is changing relative to the record, why doesn't the pitch change? Like, why doesn't it change the sound? Because it's going faster on the outer part and slower on the inner part. Wouldn't the pitch change? It was confusing. I was confused. I was like, what is this magical scenario? And I thought about it for like days. I was like, how is it possible that this can happen? I was so confused. And I took the record player apart. I thought the only answer I could think was like somehow inside the record player, there was like a way to compensate an inverse situation of like a reverse record going the other way, that when like multiplied or added together, rebalanced the speeds. I couldn't figure it out. I was like coils of things. Like, I didn't know. I didn't find anything that would indicate that. So I put it back together and I'm looking at it. And I thought about it for a long time, days. And then I was dream about it. And what I realized is the spacing of the grooves on the record changes It's the information structure that's changing on the record. So the speed is the same, but the density of the information, the amount of information, the spacing between the groups is changing from the outer, edge of the record to the inner edge of the record. And that compensates, or to put it a different way, it's designed, the structure of the record is designed to compensate for this situation. And what I learned is that energy and information are related through geometry. And there's a way to structure information storage, the grooves in the record, in a way to compensate for changes in velocity. And I guess philosophically, this idea comes into play later with my energy transfer models and relating the potential energy by putting a marble up on a ramp with the number of dominoes that gets knocked over, which is the information structure, and also the rules, which have to do with the curvature of the ramp. And those three things are related in a model. And they're related at snapshots in time, just like the record is, and the grooves in the record and the sound that comes out.